So one of the really cool things about living where we live in Idaho is that we live really close to the Oregon Trail. And if you're an overlander geek, you know that like the Oregon Trail is like OG overlanding, or OT overlanding. And so it's really cool. There's a section of it that's right next to our house, and it's drivable. You're allowed to drive on it. And it's just so cool to be tracing these tracks in the Jeep, imagining what it was like to be an Oregon Trail settler coming across the entire country and seeing all these things for the first time. Pretty cool.
When you think about the history of overlanding, it's hard not to give a nod to the 400,000 or so people who made the roughly 2,100 mile trek to the Oregon Territory on covered wagons. The Oregon Trail was created by fur traders and trappers between 1811 and 1840, and when the first wagon trail came through in 1836, it stopped in Fort Hall, Idaho, located near what is current-day Pocatello. From then until 1869, the Oregon Trail served as a gateway to the West for people looking to find a better life, escape religious persecution, and capitalize on the opportunity the new land offered. But just like modern-day overlanding, the most important piece of equipment was their rig. In their case, the covered wagon. In most cases, a prairie schooner, called schooners because of the way the canvas top resembled a sail. Without it, the trip was impossible. And when they broke down, things got dangerous quickly. Of course, they didn't have the luxuries we take for granted today. There were no rooftop tents, scottles, jet boils, refrigerators, espresso machines, diesel heaters, or air conditioners. These folks had wooden wheels, oxen for an engine, and no windshields. For me, driving this trail and thinking about a trip where 20 miles in a day was pushing it, water crossings killed people, and help from the natives meant finding your way or ending up nowhere. It's almost silly to think that we do this now for fun. But it is fun. It's a blast to know that I can drive for 10 minutes to this trail and in some ways be whisked back in time. It really makes me feel like I've been somewhere else. The trail itself is pretty rutted out in some spots, as you can imagine. The soil here is what we call the Owyhee clay, which is monstrous to drive in when wet, doesn't drain well, and is perfect for making bad dirt roads. That being said, this is not a technical trail in any way. It's easy to moderate and gives some great views of the surrounding area, including the middle fork of the Boise River, downtown Boise, and the Boise Mountains across the valley. My destination was Bonneville Point, which I'd never actually been to. Benjamin Bonneville was a captain in the U.S. Army in 1836 when he caught the overlanding bug and wanted to venture west. He led an expedition of over 100 men and spent much of his time in Idaho, Oregon, and Utah, where you'll see his name all over, including the Bonneville Salt Flats in Salt Lake City. The lookout point is where his expedition could see the trees of the Boise River for the first time. After traveling over the high desert with nothing but sagebrush and rattlesnakes to look at, his men saw the trees and shouted "La bois," which means the trees in French. The name stuck, and La Bois became Boise. Today, Bonneville Point is not much visited, but it's definitely worth a stop, even if it's just to imagine what an oasis Boise must have been to hot and weary overland travelers back at that time. Overlanding is often seen as getting way out and away from home to create new experiences and stories that you'll never forget. However, I think the most important part of it is just getting out and trying something. The trails we travel sometimes already have stories to tell us. And just because they're close to home doesn't mean they won't change us in a meaningful way. I know I learned a lot about my backyard on this really short trip close to home. So I can't wait to get back out on the trail, find new stories, and create my own.